You're listening to Veg Your Best. There has never been a more important time to be vegan. At Veg Your Best, I want to help you. I want to help you limit and eliminate the consumption of animal products without feeling deprived, overwhelmed, or unsupported, even if no one you know is vegan. My name's Michelle Olander. I'm a life coach, and I know that if I could go vegan in my 50s, with all my excuses, I know you can start moving in that direction too. Veg your best, and there's nothing you can't do. Episode 197, Vegan Outrage Addiction. Are you furious or curious? Hey, my friend, my Veg Your Bestie. I've been ruminating a little this week about something, and that can only mean one thing for you, a disorganized podcast episode. Let's see how it goes. And maybe it's, maybe it's the upcoming election. It could be the truly horrific wars that we're witnessing live and in color on our televisions, or that follow us update by update on our phones throughout the day and the night. Maybe it's some of the comments that I get on social media, or maybe it's some of the interpersonal twinges I experience here and there in my family, in my community. Or maybe, honestly, it could be related to turning 65 in a few days. I know, she says, waving Medicare card in hand. And maybe it's having been the delighted recipient of 5 grandchildren in just the last 4 years, with 2 more on the way this summer. I know. I'm feeling maybe connected to the future in a new way or in a different way. And I'm always interested, always curious in what it is I can do in my one life to cast a vote for the world I want to see. Not just in an election, but in my choices, in my words, in my actions, in my work. And even if it sometimes sounds kind of Miss Bossy Pants over here, I actually do not believe that I have the last word on any subject. In fact, I actually don't think you can be a great coach and believe that you know categorically what's best for anybody else. I don't know what's best for my clients. I don't know what's best for the world. I think to be a good coach, you have to trust that each sovereign human being is on her own journey, and at the core, people are good. Pollyanna alert. Pollyanna-ish as that may even sound, and yes, I've been labeled a Pollyanna more than once. If you aren't familiar with that label, it's because it's super archaic, and it usually means an excessively cheerful or optimistic person, and it's based on a novel from even before I was born in the early 20th century about a girl, Pollyanna, who was always more cheerful and optimistic than her exterior circumstances would seem to indicate possible. So anyway, yes, even though I'm a Pollyanna, even I have been sucked into the topic of this week's episode, outrage addiction. And I say at the top that it's something I have to notice in myself, because it really is a lot easier, a lot more comfortable to see outrage addiction in other people, in other demographics, in people who behave differently than you do. But I don't talk to other people, I talk to you, right? And in general, I am usually talking to people who are in some sort of alignment with vegan or plant-based lifestyles, or moving in that direction. And some people are surprised that is actually a bigger tent than sometimes people expect. There are a very large variety of people, politically, religiously, ethnically, in that vegan and plant-based world. we're not super easy to categorize, but all of us, no matter who you are, we live in a world where outrage addiction has become the norm. It has become just endemic. So what do I mean by it? If you Google the phrase outrage addiction, you'll see a lot written by psychologists and researchers about it these days. And I think years ago, it would have just normally been called something like self-righteous indignation. But everything is so speeded up and charged now. I've seen it also called maddiction. Everything moves so fast. If you click on a post or even an article on a very reputable digital version of the newspaper you read, then suddenly, even in the so-called reputable press, the bots are noticing what articles you clicked on and serving you up similar ones. Oh, were you interested in that? Here are 5 others you might like. And in social media, it's worse. I bet your feed is absolutely buzzing with reinforcing opinions and memes and posts. I don't think that's just me. I don't think so. And for those of us who tend to think that there are really important reasons to limit or eliminate the consumption of animal products in our lives, we can be swamped with self-reinforcing opinions and evidence and media and advocates. And what I see more and more, deeper divisions and sorting. Different levels of, oh, you're not really vegan, or that's not plant-based, or if you're vegan, you have to believe the following other things and go public on this issue, instead of helping us learn or see or investigate. Instead of being curious, I see more and more a culture of contempt towards people who do not already know or see what we do. And not to trivialize what many, many well-meaning, very intelligent people have to say about a variety of local, regional, and global issues, in any situation, I believe that contempt is not what the kids call a good look. And listen, I get mad. I feel outrage. I think things or people or entities or governmental officials should be doing things differently. Yes, I do. But one thing I know for sure, when I'm furious, I'm not curious. When emotion is high, intellect tends to be low. When I'm furious, I for sure have good reasons. You do too. You know, there's a person I was talking about at dinner the other night. God forgive me. There's a person I know who was really, in my view, objectively awful to people that I care about. That's my view. And I can feel that that is really definitive. I can really give you lots of evidence that most of you would probably tend to agree with. Yeah, horrible person. And I can get pretty outraged when some people that I know defend him. And yet, I also know that he suffers from some emotional and psychiatric issues that I wouldn't wish on anyone, even him. So when I tone down my fury about his prior behavior, I can start to summon up some level of curiosity about what brought that behavior about. Because I don't think he's evil. And I don't think there's too many people out there who are evil. But there are a lot of people who are seeing things from a aspect, from a perspective, wearing lenses that don't match ours. So when I feel some contempt welling up in me towards this person, I do not think any of that helps me be a positive person. My contempt is othering. It makes me see this other person as less than, and it doesn't help anyone. I can fully disagree without contempt, but only if I notice when it's happening. So that's the subject today. I want us to notice when we have good reasons to feel a certain way, but what we're doing is feeling contempt for our fellow human beings. In any community, this can happen. In any culture or group or country, whether it's an election cycle or during a war, whether it's the issue of climate change or animal rights or healthcare, this addiction to outrage and contempt is understandable in a way because it's human. And it's been going on for millennia, and it's not how I want to live. And I'm pretty sure it's not how you want to live. But how are we drawn to it? Well, how do we get sucked into it? And it's so simple. It's so simple because out there's a community of people you can feel part of. It makes us feel some level of belonging. That sense of outrage kind of feels good in a way because it connects us to certain people. It disconnects us from people that we can't figure out how to make sense of in this world. And it deflects us. It distracts us from what we could actually be doing to make something better. And it distracts us from where we in our own lives feel impotent or incapable or overwhelmed or hypocritical or messy. Who doesn't want to have something to distract us from those uncomfortable feelings? Who doesn't want to have something to deflect us from how we could be actually more part of a solution, or we could be behaving better, or we could be supporting others or living more ethically or with more love or with more compassion? Wait, I can think of why this guy, this politician, this regime, this corporation, they're dangerous, they're bad, they're evil all day long. And the people who support them, uneducated, ignorant, maybe worse, that can sometimes make me feel a little bit better about myself. Sometimes it can make me feel a little bit, I don't know, like I'm a little more knowledgeable than those others, a little more evolved than those others. And I believe that I always want to notice when that is happening in my head and in my heart, because that's not how I want to live. If I'm furious, I'm not curious. And I want to know why other people don't feel the same way. I want to understand why other people don't see it the same way I do. I want to appreciate the lenses we are all looking at this world through, because I don't think we don't make many, and I think maybe we don't make any long-term solutions on this earth through contempt. Of course I want to be right. Of course I want to feel right. And what we have in today's 24-hour news culture and polarized debate is that there's an entire algorithm sorting us into camps where we feel right and where we feel in judgment about one of the other camps. Now, I want to talk way more about this topic this summer, how as people who, most of you listening here this week, most weeks, we do want to behave in a way that causes less harm to the earth and to the beings we share this planet with. And most of us want to fuel ourselves and our families in a positive way. How can we help others hear our good ideas and suggestions without contempt? Because I very much believe that a vegan practice of plant-based lifestyle is primarily about compassion and life and taking positive, life-affirming action in this world. And that doesn't mean that we don't see things we want to change. It doesn't mean that we keep silent about it. But we also want to notice when it crosses a line in our behaviors to an outrage addiction. Maddiction, if you will, or contempt. And if you can see it in others, maybe better than in yourself, of course I can. But I know it's there in me. Don't condemn it in others either. Try not to anyway. Try to see why, as human beings, it just happens to us. We get taken in by it. And maybe think about, I don't know, be a little curious about who or what benefits by us being at each other's throats. Well, we'll talk more about it this summer. I want to suggest some ideas that we can, in our own lives, do an end run about it in other episodes this summer. You know, the Dalai Lama is always famous for saying, "My religion is kindness." And I think that's always one of the ways we do an end run around these things. We ask ourselves, am I being kind? And if I'm not, can I ask myself to recenter towards some kindness, even if I don't have it in me, to completely change my point of view? I'm closing up. I told you it might be a disorganized podcast because I was ruminating this week. But there's a famous text from Tolstoy. Spent a lot of time reading my boy Tolstoy in the early years as a Russian major. And Tolstoy writes, there can be only one permanent revolution, a moral one, the regeneration of the inner human. How is this revolution to take place? Nobody knows how it will take place in humanity, but every human feels it clearly inside himself. And yet, in our world, everybody thinks of changing humanity, and nobody thinks of changing himself. Everybody thinks of changing humanity, and nobody thinks of changing himself. Well, that's not true here. Not with my Veg Your Besties. We are always thinking about how we can change ourselves a little to show more humanity, more compassion, and more kindness. Right? Well, when I'm furious, I'm not curious about how I can grow or learn or support or love. How can we let our outrage this week turn into something we challenge ourselves to do or evolve instead of just burning the place down? Okay, kids, look for that this week and get out there. Veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.